it is so much easier to do things together and more sustainable. And so I really focused on what gives me energy and what takes it away. I think an obsession with time gets in the way sometimes, or maybe obsession is too harsh.
I think a lot of times we have these surface level discussions where it's like, here's the program that it's so great. And since like I'm a suicide loss survivor, a lot of times when you come to medicine and you hear those stories, it's alienating and it also makes you angry. Like you're like, oh, I'm glad your program went well, except it didn't because people die still. So, so I don't know. Sometimes I want to ask people like, what do you really need? Like what do we really need to do? Or is this just like part of humanity?
I feel like, it was probably 5 years ago. Often we skip forward or we pass over, like we keep it superficial. And I'm thinking of this because just yesterday in clinic, it was so great because I've, of course, developed this, tactic or technique, I'm going to say, where I'll say, how are you? And, the program response, I think, quite often is, I'm good. And then, so what I've tried like 6 different versions of this. And of course, Subha knows me so well. She'll know like, oh, of course he did that. Where I'm trying to, get at how can I get deeper? And so to understand that when people say I'm good, like that's a program response. And so I used to say, oh, are you good? And then everyone looks at me like, what is wrong with you? What does that mean? I think it's applicable in work with our clinician and caregiver teammates and in each clinic visit and just yesterday, a patient and her mom came in and I said, hey, how are you? And they said, oh, we're good. And then I said, are you sure? And I looked them in the eye because the thing that I have found above and beyond anything else, and maybe it's also the pandemic and you're right, having to wear masks all the time, like the eye contact is if you pause to connect with your eyes, there is this like, do I trust him? Or do I trust her? Or do I trust them? Like, is this a moment where I can share a little bit more? And so I jumped in, I said, are you sure? And they said, no, we're not. And so I think it's that. And one of my favorite, I should say, books is Emotional Agility by Dr. Susan David. She is just a remarkable person. And she highlights that there's a space between stimulus and response. And so I've really tried to jump into that.
One of the things I hear from people so often is that they feel like the systems they work in don't care, right? So we're talking about doing this on a human to human level, colleague to colleague, but if the group that you work for or the system that you work for doesn't make you feel like they even care to know how you're doing, that has a really big impact. And I can say very firmly, and hopefully it's similar experiences at Penn, but I have always felt very secure that the group that I work in actually cares about my experience in my career. They actually care about, what my goals are and helping me reach those goals. And so I always had this really good feeling of like, okay, people, I have people looking out for me at work and what I want to accomplish. And a lot of people don't have that in their work environment.
Every time I meet someone, like I just went to a conference about physician well-being, right? And I was like, okay, I just need to mentally prepare to hear everyone's suicide story all day. I think that that's really important. I also think that's like one of the core parts of my work. There's also work to be done. Like there are also bills people have to pay. So when you're going in with this super high level of stress, or okay, well, if I do this, like I might start crying, or I might not be able to do this, but my kid has school and I have to pick them up afterwards, you're risking like being able to get the things done that you need to get done.
I think that is a
Yeah, it's
very fair and important pushback. I so my add to that, and it motivates me even more to change the design, is really thinking more in healthcare and structure of business and work. Is okay, you're right, and I know you're right. um, how do we change the design? Is how do we think differently? Because I would say, and although feel free to push back, I think the three of us would agree that the more, let me say it differently, if we invest in some of that wisely, we navigate that risk and we actually build more sustainability ahead. But it's pausing to invest, and
Yeah.
it's hard. And I'll be the first to say I feel very fortunate because I've had uh, very strong supporters in my last system and this system to invest in trying something new because the current state is so broken.
What what can people that watch this do for you? Like what's important to you? What comes next? That's three questions. You can pick either one. How do you feel? What do you think? Trying to do both.
Yeah, and I realize, I totally admit I have a very lofty goal, and I would say my hope and my goal would be how can we um, prevent stress or suffering for those around us today. And I think more of that in healthcare, and suffering is deep, and so that's fundamental to what we do in healthcare. I think alleviate and prevent suffering. And but in terms of like a scalable everyday thing is how can I, you know, make it a little less stressful for the person in front of me. And just a little bit of that every day, I actually think is more powerful than people realize. Um, so that would be my ask. Is I would ask each of us to
Yeah.
focus on and being present, right, in the moment. Is how can I make it a little bit easier for those around me today, and giving, knowing that others are going to give back to us too. That's I think that's the cool part of giving is that it does come back to us.